so honored to have a conversation with you. And I would like to congratulate you for being part of our inaugural Red Stick Rhythms round. And I love your music.
Thank you. I did the thing where I yeeted in the application and then I forgot about it, in the sense of, I'm not going to stress about this because they are going to get 500 million applications. There's no way they will pick mine. I get the email and go, what?
That was very fun. Well, we've been asking all the artists, what does Red Stick Rhythms mean to you? Do you have an answer to that?
I think what appeals to me about the name is, I'm from Houston. I spent half my childhood in Texas and South Korea. And so I find myself having to explain, what does the name Baton Rouge even mean? Because if you don't speak French, if you're not from Louisiana, especially if you're in South Korea, like South Korea sort of like knows there is a state called Louisiana and New Orleans is in there somewhere, but it just because like it's a very big world. So I really liked the idea of something that was about local musicians and local groups, and probably as I listened through the catalog of albums, just there's so much more variety of kinds of music that I wouldn't be exposed to normally, listening to, the top 40, 50, the top whatever number it is on the radio. So really that's what Red Stick Rhythms was about for me. I also liked that it called out rhythm as sort of like, you can have music that doesn't have melody. It's pretty impossible to have music that doesn't have a rhythm.
That's true. Great answer. I was thinking about when I lived in Rhode Island and I would travel to other countries and they thought it was an island. So yes, I understand about Baton Rouge. So my next question is, can you just talk about your artistic process? Like how do you compose, or what's your vision?
I actually don't come from like a music background. My degree is in math, so I find myself having to answer this question a lot from people.
They say music and math, or
it's very true, but it's sort of I think this is probably less of a question one gets in music spaces, but I'm always like, people find this answer so unsatisfying, but the music just walks into my head and I hear it in my head and then I elaborate on it. I might orchestrate it. Most of what I write is either hybrid orchestra or chamber orchestra music. And I just hear it in my head and then I have to take it into the DAW, the digital audio workstation, and flesh it out and figure out, actually that bit for the trumpets is too high or too low and I have to switch it to other instruments and so on. But really the melody just walks into my head, or the harmony walks into my head. And people find this answer so incredibly unsatisfying.
No, but that is a type of brain that just hears music. And I remember I used to dream in music, and my stepfather would say, "You got to write it down." I was like, "I don't know, I don't remember." You're in it when you're dreaming, but so it's purely electronic, or do people play also?
So my background, such as it is like obligatory Asian American piano lessons. I did student viola, recorder, harmonica, classical guitar. So I have written material for acoustic instruments. My high school senior project was a four-movement orchestral suite for the high school orchestra.
No way! Wow.
Yeah. But normally high school music teachers aren't equipped to teach orchestral writing. It was sort of like, here's an intro to Roman numeral analysis, and here's a handbook on notation, so French horn comes before trumpet in the score, and just go, because again, this is not something high school music teachers normally are asked to teach. But they did play through it. And they were like, normally we would let you conduct, except you are first viola and we only have two violas.
Like, what?
And I mean, I like viola because it's sort of like a supporting instrument.
Yeah,
it's not an instrument that normally gets the big solo or soli parts. Right now, what I do is almost all in the box. It's in the computer using virtual instruments, VST plugins, and so on. And unfortunately, because my lane is orchestra, those are sort of across the board the most expensive VSTs. I spent over a decade. I spent like 15 years just sitting there waiting for Black Friday sales. And my day job, I am a science fiction writer, and I would just take writing, like any extra income from writing, and funnel it into
Another
music
piece of
stuff.
equipment.
Because the thing is, hiring an orchestra is something that people can do, and also it costs a lot of money.
Thousands. Oh yeah.
So it was I did experiment with electronica for a while, and that's sort of how I got into hybrid orchestra, because you can download free synths, and I mean, at the point you're using the presets, now you sound like everyone else using the free synths.
Right.
But it teaches you a little bit about sound design, and it makes music accessible to people who can't afford to hire the freaking orchestra.
Right.
Thanks so much to Red Stick Rhythms for promoting music and for bringing the community together.